Hello, and welcome to the Self-Care with Herbs segment of the Elder Tree podcast. I'm your host, Jess Bosker, naturopath, herbalist, and medicine maker. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the Banjalang people, the traditional custodians of the land on which I live, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Now, come along and join me each month for beautiful conversations with guests from across the country, exploring ways we can weave plant medicine into our days to enrich our experience of self-care, sharing routines, rituals and recipes for elevating mind, body and spirit. From the lavender fields of Provence to the old growth forests of Canada, this chat with Genna Pyewacket is filled with wonderful stories of connection with plant medicine. Genna is a naturopath and herbalist with a special interest in functional medicine. Her naturopathic practice has shifted focus from the clinic to the kitchen over the last 6 years with her business Pyewackets Traditional. Her focus there is on fermented fruit and herb preserves known as shrubs, apple cider vinegar tinctures and tonics, as well as bitters. With her drinks, she hopes to help improve the health and nutrition of her customers, as well as their relationship to everyday kitchen medicine and plants. She lives in Lismore, New South Wales with her family. During our chat, Genna shares how, as part of her environmental activism in her early teens, she found herself on a herb walk, immersed in the medicine of the old growth forests. This was such a light bulb moment that from then on she was determined to learn more and started studying herbal medicine at only 17 years old with a local herbal elder, which led to an apprenticeship when she finished school and further learning with renowned herbalist Rosemary Gladstar. Genna shares her journey from Canada to Australia to further her studies in herbal medicine and the evolution of her connection with the plants. She shares her passion for shrubs and their historical significance as a preservation method for fruit and herbs. Being lucky enough to now live in the Northern Rivers with an abundance of local produce at her fingertips, Genna paints a picture of her adventures across the countryside, picking up surplus citrus, herbs hanging out the windows of her little car. We chat about what's growing in Genna's garden, and she shares a little-known use for that common subtropical fruit tree, the pawpaw. Hint, it's not the fruit. Genna shares some of the ways women can tune into their self-care needs by observing changes to their cycle, and we agree that this can be a really tangible way to see the impact of self-care practices. Entering the season of perimenopause has shifted her nervous system in different ways, and Genna shares a herb that she has found to be a wonderful ally at this time. We talk about different constitutional types and how having an awareness of our own constitution can influence the how, when, and why of our self-care. Genna describes what she sees as the two most important ingredients for seeing the long-term benefits of self-care by telling a beautiful story about the lasting impact of the waves or moving water on a stone or rock. We finish our chat with a gorgeous image of Genna in the lavender fields of the south of France with the fragrance of one of her favourite herbs wafting over her. Hello and welcome, Genna. It's so lovely to have you here this morning.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. Look at you. You're so cute. I love your smile. Aww, so
and
warm.
I can see you sitting there in your beautiful factory with your gorgeous logo behind you.
I know. Isn't she beautiful?
Yeah, absolutely stunning.
Aww.
So we're here to talk about all things self-care with herbs today. And I know that you have a really deep connection with plants in a variety of different ways. I know you're a really keen gardener. I know you're a herbalist and a homeopath, and you work with the plants every day, making your beautiful shrubs. Today we're going to be focusing on ways that you connect with plants in a way that promotes and increases your self-care. So first of all, I'd really like to dive in and hear a little bit about your story of how your relationship with plant medicine began. Let's go right back to the beginning.
Okay, well, that's really cool. I mean, I guess I'm very lucky in that I came from a planty family. So gardener, enthusiast, house plant even enthusiast. Like my dad is a crazy, we're from Canada. We don't have a lot of tropical plants growing outside, but he would do things like graft 4 different citrus trees on one tree and keep it in the lounge room so that we grew 1 lemon, or, like he was quite enthusiastic. We lived in an apartment building and he would like go and guerrilla garden in the local park. And, so there was a connection to being in the plant world, I guess, very young, which is, never felt foreign to me. It always was something there. My grandmother is a Romanian immigrant, always had a plot, always growing food, and involved in the kitchen nonstop. Like that was her entire life's work, was the kitchen. So, I feel, I guess that foundation was there, but natural medicine and herbal medicine specifically came into my life in my early teens. So I would have been about 15 years old and I started getting incredibly passionate about environmental activism. It was like literally, I was frothing at the mouth to just get out there and do direct action and be involved. I was living in Vancouver Island, where there is a ton of direct action to protect our old growth rainforest, which continues to this day. And I was trying to get involved with that, with the grown-ups in my community, turning up to workshops, being involved in things. And one weekend workshop that was happening in a big local park was a direct action workshop, and a girl who's probably in her early 20s at the time gave a herb walk, which was part of the day's sort of activities. And it was a walk through the forest, highlighting the medicinal and, native plants that were used as foods and, some of the resources that are available or present in, old growth forests and herbal medicine forests. And it was like literally like done. I was in. I was just like, I'm sold. This is for me. I love this. I can't get enough. Walking around, looking at the shrubs and the bushes and the plants and the flowers and seeing medicine was literally, that was it for me. And she was studying under a local woman named Carol McGrath, who is, I don't know that she would call herself a master herbalist, but I would call her a master herbalist. And I feel like she deserves that term. She was a local woman who had been, studying herbal medicine since the 70s. She was heavily involved in that sort of herbal revival of the 70s, very connected with Rosemary Gladstar and a lot of our indigenous medicine people on the island. And she had a house on the edge of a nature sanctuary with a huge herb farm. And she used to do introductory to herbal medicine classes, and she would take on apprentices. And a bunch of these women in this activist circle were apprentices of hers. And that was sort of like, I have to get into this world. So I did her, introduction to herbal medicine class. I think I was 17. I'd ride my, my bike over to her place, and I was just on fire every day. Like every time I was there in her garden or in her presence. And then I started going after school to pick, rose hips or string up, calendula blossoms or dig out marshmallow roots or do whatever sort of jobs she needed to do, because she made all of her own medicines for her practice, working in her medicine making room and, in her garden and in the field. And then as soon as I graduated high school, I started my year apprenticeship with her, and I did it concurrently with Rosemary Gladstar's The Art and Medicine, or The Art and Science of Herbal Medicine, which was a correspondence-based course that Rosemary had written. I have all my original books. I'd love to show you one day. They're amazing. And Carol was sort of a registered or authorized teacher marker of this course. So I never got to meet Rosemary Gladstar, but my first sort of course that I did was under her framework and philosophy, and it really fed and nurtured my early herbal life. And that was, I guess, what I was just like, that was it. I've never not thought about what I want to be when I grow up. Like it was done, So then I traveled overseas. I did travel for a couple of years, and I was in Scotland, and I came through working on organic farms into contact with the Scottish School of Herbal Medicine. And it was my intention to study there. So I went home to Canada to save up my money to go back, and they decided to change the way the course was structured, and they weren't going to accept undergraduates anymore. But they only told me that after I'd moved back to Scotland. So I was kind of 20 and I was in Scotland by myself, not really sure what I was doing. And I had an Australian flatmate who said, why don't you look into Australia? I think we have lots of schools for that there. And I had never considered coming here, but 24 years later. So I studied starting in 2000 at Nature Care College in Sydney. And I started off doing herbal medicine and nutrition, and then quickly decided I needed to just do all of naturopathy, fell in love with homeopathy at that time. And then also, once I was finished my naturopathy degree, did the 2 more years to finish my advanced diploma in homeopathy. So I am also a homeopath, but I don't really practice much homeopathy these days. I'm mostly focused on plant-based medicine, crude medicine, and nutrition, actually. Yeah, that's it, I guess. And here I am.
Yeah, before we go any further, can you take us back and paint a little bit of a picture of what it was like being able to forage those beautiful plant allies from the Canadian soil and some of the herbs that you might have seen, like a lot of Australian herbalists, that's a dream, you know.
It really truly is a dream. Yeah. I miss it desperately. So the cycles of the year over there are marked with these big harvests of Western herbs, right? So I was living in share houses through my late teens and early up until I moved overseas at 2021. Permanent, forever after that. And I used to have my bedroom closet was always my herbarium, where I was I had hanging and drying things and a shelf full of all my jars. And, it was I had a dehydrator in my bedroom, and it was you'd get out on your bicycle, you go nettle harvesting. And we're talking nettles, or rose hip harvests where, we have wild rose, the Nootka rose, which is a stunningly beautiful variety of wild rose on Vancouver Island. And we'd be out rose hip collecting just tons of the stuff, right? And you'd put them on a needle and thread and have long strings of rose hips drying. Hawthorn berries, just tons and tons of them, of early flowers, leaves. The other amazing one that I miss immensely is St. John's wort. That was a huge heralder of summer as well, because it's flowering right at the solstice. So, you're coming out of winter. Canadian winters can be terrible, or, even on Vancouver Island, it's drizzle and gray, and you're, hungry for the light and for the summer. So those summer solstices have so much, magic about them, but also vibrance. You're just, you're buzzing. And, St. John's wort grows always along sort of pathways, there's old train lines that have been abandoned, those types of places. And it'll just be yellow, and your fingertips go red from picking, by the end of the day. And that kind of thing is just wild. It's just awesome. I miss that so much. Just the abundance of the Western herbs. There are herbs here and plant medicines here that, as a not Indigenous person, I'm not as familiar with, and I haven't been trained in those medicines. And I chastise myself for not knowing more. I would love to continue to learn more about this environment, but I guess there's something about your home that, and I think, as Western people, I'm a Western person, and Western herbal medicine just is in me deep. It's just in me deep. So I feel those plants very deeply, and I miss them. I really do, actually. Them being in their natural habitat wild, just going off. And then there are Indigenous plants there too that, I became very familiar with and had a strong love for. Colt's foot grows wild there. That's an Indigenous plant that, isn't as common. And things like the huckleberry leaves are an amazing astringent. They're used a lot for digestive issues, diarrhea. We were doing, a lot of digestive medicine using huckleberry leaves. So lots of stuff that you don't necessarily find in the sort of pharmacopoeia of Western herbal medicine normally, that I also had a big connection to over there. trying to think of others. Yarrow, there's tons of yarrow there, grows everywhere. Just beautiful. Yeah.
And as you
it's
said,
lush. It's a
that
lush.
abundance, we have little pockets of those herbs here, but we always have to be careful about our harvest because there's often there's not a huge abundance like what you're saying in their native environment where they just thrive.
And they're weeds. They're genuine weeds in Canada, right? So it's sort of like, if you have a forest area that is just got a massive, undergrowth of nettle, like no one's mad at you for going in there with your gloves on and picking all day. Like no one's mad about it. So, you're basically free to go for it.
And I know that you have a really strong connection with growing and making. How did that evolve into your current journey working with the plants with shrubs?
So I guess I have always been that person from those years. Like back then, growing has always been on every place I've ever lived. I always have a garden. I'm always growing, like that's just who I am. And I guess I've always been also interested in making food as medicine type products in my life. So I'm somebody who, has always been on a big fermenting journey for 20 years probably. And I guess shrubs are something that I've made from time to time. I think I probably learned how to make shrubs back in those early days, but hadn't ever really thought about it. And I had this sort of, light bulb moment, or I guess epiphany one day making this one, I guess it would have been 6 years ago. It was a lime and coriander shrub. I had a heap of coriander in my backyard, and there had been just a really great lime season as well. It was a good time of year. Probably would have been not too far from around this time of year. So, probably June, July. And I made this lime coriander shrub, and it was so fucking delicious. Sorry, I said a bad word. And I was like, why don't people make these? Like, I've not seen these around. Like nobody's doing shrubs. No one's making them. They are so delicious. They have such an incredible ancient history. They are such a powerful way to preserve, because as herbalists, we talk a lot about the difference between fresh plants and dried plants and the energetic influence of fresh plant energy on medicine and food versus dried plants. So, fresh plant tinctures and how they can be different than, say, a plant made from dried material or a tincture made from dried material. And shrubs are such an incredible way. They were a preservation method for people, dating back. I mean, for us in Europe, it would have been, I guess, the Middle Ages, but for humans, much longer, using vinegar to potentiate and preserve medicinal herbs and nutritional foods. They're alive still. They're fresh. They are full of all of the energy and the magic of that plant. And it's almost like locked in a little time capsule. And they can be delicious. So they can be incorporated into your daily life in a way that gives you that special connection to nature and to time and place and season. So it's amazing to me. They fell out of popularity, kind of with the advent of refrigeration, and the movement of plants and foods around the world. It became less necessary to preserve foods this way, but they kind of never picked up again. So, I'm definitely passionate about them, and I love them as functional foods, I guess, and plant medicine. So here we are. Yeah.
Can you describe for someone who has no idea what a shrub is? What is a shrub?
Okay, so the word shrub comes from the word, we believe, sharab, which means drink in Arabic. So the English would have been traveling around the Middle East in the Middle Ages and would have discovered this method of preserving fruit and plants using apple cider vinegar or vinegar, just vinegar. We use apple cider vinegar, but just vinegar, which can be made from any kinds of fruit. So basically, it's an acidifying agent and a fermenting agent that prevents pathogenic organisms from growing, and it's a way of preserving fruit in its raw form. So unlike pasteurization, obviously, where we have to cook the fruit to a very, very high temperature and then seal it in a oxygen-free environment, and in that process changed the molecular structure and the vitality of that food. The vitamin content is considerably different than of a raw, fresh product. Shrubs were used as a way to maintain nutrition, especially in the cold winters in Europe. So people would drink them almost like a tonic, like a vitamin hit, because there wasn't fresh food. And people, living on old mutton and stale bread for 6 months of the year would get, scurvy and be very unwell from nutritional deficiencies. So this was a way for people to get nutrition. It was also a way of preserving and potentiating the effects of herbal medicines, which were obviously what was just called medicine back then. That was the medicine of the day. And over the years, obviously they're delicious as well. So they've made their ways into, pleasurable drinks and cocktails. And, moving into the 17 and 1800s in the colonial Americas, they traveled over there. Shrubs used to be pantry staples for everyone to preserve fruit. When, if you had a berry patch or a lemon tree or anything, you would be preserving things in various forms. And this was one of the forms. And this form had more nutritional and medicinal value. So obviously we make them now with those intentions, but also we get to use really good quality base vinegars and things like that, which have extra benefits all of their own. So, the digestive, we understand more that there's extra benefits to incorporating apple cider vinegar into our daily life as well as a tonic in its own right. So you're getting this sort of powerhouse of cold raw fruit and then also herbal medicine and raw apple cider vinegar. It's just an incredible preserve. We make ours with, I guess, all traditional methods, and they are true fruit preserves. So there's different types of shrubs. The word shrub can be used to describe anything really that is fruit-based with apple cider vinegar or vinegar. But we use it as a fruit preservation method. So I like to say to people, it's kind of like jam and kombucha had a baby. Like, it is a fruit preserve, and we've used a fermenting culture to preserve that fruit. So ours has more fruit by volume than anything else in the bottle, and then whatever accompanying herbs. So that's why ours do need to be kept in the fridge, because the fermentation of that fruit is quite active. And we give a year best before from our manufacturing, but they last forever if they're kept cool and that culture remains dormant. Otherwise, the vinegar bug just makes a lot of bubbles and it gets a bit messy when you open it. It gets carbonated. But our business is just based on the fact that we live in what I call the fruit bowl, and we're absolutely inundated with fresh produce from our local area. And I get to be very hands-on in picking and growing and sourcing and foraging a lot of the product that goes into our shrubs. And that is just, to me, the pinnacle. Like, I can't imagine having this business and living in a big urban environment and buying all my produce from a fruit market. Like that, it just wouldn't be the same, where I get to go out to a lemon tree and pick lemons. I have a network of growers all over the hills now. I know who has, maybe a non-commercial orchard, and I can go and pick in exchange for product, or, sometimes people are just happy for you to come and take it.
That's it. You're helping with waste disposal, right? A lot of this stuff would be going to waste if it wasn't captured and preserved.
Absolutely. There'll be somebody be like, oh yeah, about 30 years ago, my dad planted 6 lime trees, and we definitely don't need 6 lime trees worth of limes every year. Please come and take them, because otherwise they just rot and make a mess and get heaps of flies, and, and I'm just very happy to oblige. So, coming into citrus season, I am all over the hillside with my car, my tiny little not appropriate for the job car, off-roading into paddocks, carrying trugs full of citrus fruit. It's pretty funny, but yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Herbs hanging out the window.
Oh, totally. It's a disaster. I have like an I-20, which is like a little lady's get around town car. And it's like been used as like a work ute. It's a poor little thing.
So tell us about your garden at the moment, Genna. What herbs have you got happening in your garden?
Well, I have like a semi-commercial mint situation going on because we grow all the mint for our shrubs. So it's all fresh we have 2 shrubs that have mint base. So I have the pineapple mint julep, which has 4 different kinds of fresh mint. And then we have one called Emerald City, which is green apple, celery, chlorophyll, and mint. So I have 4 raised beds that almost entirely are mint, and they are, they're at the kind of end of their season. And unfortunately, because I'm a semi-commercial mint grower, I also am a professional grasshopper breeder. So I really have a grasshopper problem. And this time of the year, they're very prolific. They've had a whole season of munching. I've given up trying to, I guess, curb their development because they do die off in the winter. And it's just like, I can't, like, I could never go out and, I've tried covering them, but the mint doesn't like that. So I had, I built tunnels for the mint, and then the mint gets rust on it. It needs more airflow, and and the sun, they doesn't thrive in tunnels. So bug kind of netting. I've tried using eco oil and like natural sprays, but that's just so laborious. And at the end of the day, I grow so much. If it's got a nibble, yeah, that's right. If a leaf has a nibble on it, that's fine. Like it's not being sold in a store, so it's fine. So I have that at the moment. What else have I got growing that's really, the moment I've got tons of flowers that are coming back after this rainy season. I've got like the butterfly pea that is just going nuts right now. And that is like literally one of my favorites at the moment. I think because I've never grown it before. A friend of mine gave me a packet of seeds for a present, I guess like 2 years ago, maybe. And I didn't plant them straight away. I just kind of let them sit around for too long. So I think the seeds were a bit old. And so when I finally did plant them, only one germinated. And I was like, oh, so I just stuck it in the ground next to the trellis where my garden peas were growing, and it took off. And it, was the first year we had one plant, and then all the seed pods, because I don't pick the flowers, I just really love them. It's sort of like if I was to try to pick them to use them, by the time you dry a butterfly pea flower, it's like, it's so small. I just leave it, but then they turn into pods. And then, so now I've got like a wall, like I've got like, they've self-seeded. So they're just going and going. So I'm hopeful that I want to build a better trellis so that, because at the moment it's a pretty crappy one, so that I basically just have a permanent,
wall.
Yeah. I have like a self-seeded, I have an amazing pawpaw that is growing down the side of my house. So like I use fresh pawpaw leaf in my flora cider tonic. And that is a herb that isn't necessarily well known, or people don't really consider pawpaw leaf as being a herbal medicine, but it absolutely is. It's probably, I don't know, it's an incredibly powerful digestive. There's tons of research, going into its use in cancer treatment and immune antimicrobial activity. It's an incredible herb, but I use it specifically in our flora cider tonic for its papain content and as a bitter digestive. So it's the hero of that, and it's fresh pawpaw leaf. And I forage the pawpaw leaves locally, so people's properties, etc. Rogue trees I find around the place. I have, secateurs in my car. I'll like pull over and, just do a big chop chop. And, nobody really cares if you take leaves, because nobody's after the leaves. Everyone wants the fruit. I don't care about the fruit for this purpose anyway. And, but yeah, I was just kind of putting it out to the universe one day. I was like, I really need more pawpaw leaves. Like, where can I get them? And, like obviously a bird must have like pooped out or a bat must have pooped out a seed. And this pawpaw tree has grown kind of right outside my kitchen window, and it's in its 3rd year, and I absolutely lop it off every year. And it is coming back. Last year, I didn't know if it was come back. It's huge. So the trunk on it's like this big right now. I didn't think it was going to make any fruit, but there is a couple of hanging pawpaws on it this year, but the leaves are incredible. Like I got enough to make 10 batches just from trimming it the other day. So amazing. I feel like sometimes I know it sounds, I'm not a super woo herbalist, but I a little bit, I dip into it. And I definitely think that sometimes we can call plants to come to us. And, I have had that experience before where I've been like, I really wish there were nettles growing nearby. And then nettles start growing somewhere in the back of my garden. And I'm like, what? Where did you come from? So it does happen on occasion, and it humbles me and reminds me that these things are happening, like that these energies and this relationship is there. It's not just pretend or, made up in my mind, that like I'm experiencing these little magical coincidences
and connections.
That like, I asked for something that I needed to make medicine, and then it appeared in my yard, and I'm like, oh, thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for being there. So that's actually an important one that I'm doing right now, because it's the end of the season and all those leaves are going to be dying soon. So I have to get up. I've got my ladder there. It's been raining. I've been kind of chipping away at it. The next, I'm going to have to take the saw, but it will come back next year. So that I feel confident. So that's growing. I mean, obviously I've got heaps of chilies. I grow tons and tons of chilies for my fire cider. So we use all fresh chilies in that. A couple of different varieties. I've got tons of basil and tulsi. Tulsi grows crazy in my garden as well, and I love this plant very much. I'm trying to think, like, it's a bit of I'm very veggie orientated and flower orientated at the moment in my garden life. Flowers, I guess, when we talk about self-care, that has become part of my self-care, is growing flowers. So, I guess in my earlier gardening days, I was very practical about what to grow. And I would be like, I'm growing things that are edible, and I'm going to save money, and I'm going to, that kind of thing. And then, living in this region, I thought, oh, actually, there are so many incredible farmers and so many amazing growers. And I get such a lift going to markets and buying their beautiful produce. And I would do this thing where I would go and buy all this produce because it's so gorgeous that I just want it. And then I'd go home and I'd have it in my garden and I'd be like, oh God, I got too much now. Like, what am I doing? So I've kind of scaled back my vegetable growing to sort of the stuff that really gives you big bang for your buck, or that you're really loving. So greens obviously are always, and herbs. So I've got I've got all the culinary ones up the wazoo, like, everything that you can imagine in the Italian sort of bouquet garni world is growing. But I kind of tend to give myself flowers more these days. And that is something that, getting back to your original, I guess, premise of this talk, being self-care. One thing that I really love to do in the morning, I'm not a great morning person. I need to kind of start my morning a bit slow. And I definitely enjoy being able to go out to my garden and collect things that are either going to be in the morning's breakfast or in the smoothie. And also I will collect flowers. And that often, that moment, that sort of like quiet time to just have a sort of an assessment of what's happening out there, discovery, being able to go and bring something back into the house. Like, I come back, that's a really important little 10 minutes, even 15 minutes Absolutely. Of my morning. Yeah.
That's beautiful, Genna. I love it. It sounds like connection with plants and nature is a really big part of your self-care. Let's hover back a little bit and find out from you what self-care in general means to you.
I guess that's a really good question. I was thinking about this when you gave me the sort of idea of what we were going to be talking about. And I guess I have seen self-care as a very holistic thing. So I've single parented my two children my daughter was 2 when I separated from their dad. And so, the majority of their childhoods, over 10 years, 12 years, and have never had a lot of money. I don't have any sort of family support over here. I have a lot of dear friends, and obviously, as mums, you find your people, you all support each other. I didn't go without support, but I was very aware of self-care as the sort of very key factor in keeping myself together during a very stressful time where I had to be a million things to a million people. And at the time, I was also more involved in a private practice in my naturopathic work. And, that's a very devotional, energetic gift when you're communicating with someone about their health concerns or, their desires for, wellness or growth. And then you're going into, care for your children. Like everything was about putting out. And I was very, very conscious that I needed to prioritize putting back in, or that deficit was going to start coming out in how I turned up. And I wanted to turn up the best I could be for my patients and for my children. And I could tell when I wasn't my best, mostly because things started to irritate me. So I would become annoyed by my patients or annoyed by my children. Sorry to say, but you hear people talking sometimes, you're like, well, we've talked about this already. And I told you to take those herbs and to change that about your diet. And if you can't give up gluten, well, what are we doing here? So you find yourself saying that in your head, of course, not out loud, but then you're like, okay, I'm depleted. I can't access that compassion space that I need to be in to turn up for this person. And if I'm not going to turn up properly, I don't want to turn up at all. So I need to find ways to take care of myself. So when I talk about it being holistic, is I really did kind of categorize it into sort of sections of a pie. So, one thing that I've done for a very, very long time is I prioritize physical therapy. So I get acupuncture quite regularly. So I probably, at various times, maybe it's been fortnightly, sometimes it's been, once a month or, when I need it kind of thing. But generally speaking, I don't go for longer than 6 weeks without having some kind of treatment. I have a great practitioner in Lismore that's a dear friend and who has really offered me a place to go and to surrender. And I think that the thing that I love about acupuncture is I know nothing about it. So I'm not questioning what they're doing. I'm not overthinking it. I'm not thinking, is that the right thing to do? I'm just surrendering to the treatment happening to me. And, I sometimes would get on the table and tears would just start pouring out of my eyes. Like I would just, feel like I need to be nourished in some place. And I'm giving myself this space to do that in. And I prioritized it even when finances were tough.
Yeah.
The other thing that I prioritized was a gym membership. So I made sure that I always had access to being able to go and do exercise or some sort of, even if there's months sometimes when I'm not going, and that's true. The fact that I'm committed to the membership means that if I need to go and run on a treadmill or go to a yoga class or whatever, I have instant access. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to, there's no barrier between me and accessing that space. And that is an important mental health thing. As we know, exercise regularly can be as profound as, taking an antidepressant in terms of its effect on our serotonin and dopamine. So, it's free. The gym membership isn't free, but the movement is free. So you could just run around the block, but I feel I like going to a place where it's like a structured environment. And I think that sometimes paying for something gives you motivation. Yeah, that's right. Cause you're like, oh, I'm wasting my money. I better go.
Yes.
The other things that I would do, obviously, is I always have a herbal mix that I have that is ever changing. Sometimes I go off herbs for a while, but I tend to always be on something. In the last few years, I've really felt incredibly drawn to and had incredible benefits using medicinal mushrooms. So my herbal formulas will almost always have one or two in there. Reishi has been one that I feel I've had probably the most benefit from, and I have felt a genuine nurture from. I really, really love reishi mushroom. I have felt a profound change in my strength and resilience and my immunity, just incorporating that into my life every day. And then I move between different types of adrenal supports, whether they're more for stimulation or whether they're more for nourishment or sometimes relaxing. Maybe I'm too stressed. I'm, moving into that wiry energy. So it's always an evolving formula, but I do take that. And then the other side of things isn't so wholesome. Sometimes I'm like, going out for cocktails with my girlfriends is self-care, and online shopping is self-care. So I will holistically put a priority pie piece for those things too.
Yeah.
Because if those things are filling up your cup and giving you a break, and you come back feeling energized, or you get a little lift, as long as you're balanced in those things, I think I call that self-care. I don't think that self-care always has to be painful or taste bad or uncomfortable or feel like discipline. I think that wrongly the wellness kind of world gets into that. Like, you know, that no pain, no gain, like go and sit in an ice bath. I'm like, really? Like that doesn't sound like self-care, but you know, some people, they love a challenge and they're going to like breathe through it, and then they come out, they feel awesome. Well, good. Yay for you. But don't feel like you have to go and do things that are painful and uncomfortable
all the time
in the name of self-care. Do you know? Sometimes it can be purely indulgent and fun and taste delicious. Yeah.
You started to talk a little bit about what some of the whispers are from your body and your mind when perhaps those things that you just spoke about haven't been able to be at the forefront. And one of those was that irritability creeping in and that tolerance lowering. Is there any other whispers that you start to sense in your body or your mind when you know that those things haven't been as much of a priority as they need to be?
I think mood and mental health are definitely my first and foremost. I'm fairly upbeat, like positive person, and I tend to I'm not very moody, to be honest. Like I don't go through ups and downs. So when I do have a dip in my mood, or if I'm feeling cranky, I know that something's out of whack. That's my first port of call, is going, this isn't like me to be shitty about this not significant thing. But I guess as women, our cycles tell us a lot. We, you know, if you've had a really tough time, or, you know, maybe a very indulgent time, you know, maybe you've gone on a holiday and had, you know, a lot of drinking and eating outside of your normal routine, you know, your next cycle might be more difficult. And it's, you know, a big cleansing opportunity. Women definitely get some insight there, you know, when we've not been taking care of ourselves. For me, I think that mostly it's my energetic, you know, I tip into feeling a little bit more anxious and wiry. And lately, I guess I'm entering into sort of change of life era of my life. I'm in my 40s. And so I definitely have been starting to notice more just differences in my baseline fight or flight response. Like I feel like it's a little bit heightened. That can be significant from the work that I'm doing. Being in a small business is no easy thing. It is hardcore all the time. I mean, I'm doing beautiful work, very nourishing, incredible work that I'm very inspired by, and I absolutely adore. I turn up every day to what I'm doing with joy, but it is very insecure. I'm not really great with that. I'm a Taurian. I like things to be really stable. I don't actually think I'm very well suited to an entrepreneurial lifestyle. But here I am. This is what I'm doing. So I'm learning how to work with it. And we're 5 years into this business, and the impacts, I think, of constant sort of stress every month. It's like a new hurdle, a new mountain to climb, or a new, goal that you're trying to achieve. And it feels precarious all the time. But I'm working on that, but I have felt hormonally, perhaps my fight or flight response has been a little bit more charged. And recently, going back to herbs, I have found a herb that has been really beneficial for me, and I'd never used it before. And I'd really have felt, it's only been a month into using it, but I'm giving it a real, I think it's working, which is, you're always like, wow, this stuff works. Saffron. I've been taking saffron for anxiety, and I have felt a real sort of like, deflation in that hyperactive, which I think then when you're in that kind of already elevated state, little things that might elevate you take you to a next level. So like, for example, like just driving my car to Brisbane through that crazy Gold Coast traffic is never chill. But when you are already at a heightened state, it becomes like absolutely horrible. Like you're just hating every minute that you're in that experience because, you know, it feels very dangerous and you're really, you know, I was getting anxiety of the idea of going to Brisbane to do, you know, work stuff because I've been feeling so stressed and just like a ball of anxiety constantly in my chest. And I've been taking just a tablet of saffron twice a day for the last month. And about 2 weeks in, I just went, oh, you know what? I think I feel good. What's going on? This is weird. I haven't felt this okay for a while.
You felt and that then, nervous system reset back down to...
Yeah, or just like things are just not bothering me. Like I'm just not getting that sense of like, over everything. You know, like it's pouring rain right now. Like even driving in the rain has been causing me a lot of stress. Like, you know, driving through some of those, we get these monsoonal type situations and I can get to the point where I'm like, I'm so stressed, I'm gonna pull over and wait for it to pass. And now I'm kind of driving going, it's okay. I can see, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm okay. Like that's, you just feel okay and normal, which is nice.
Yes.
And I kind of attribute that probably to the saffron. Yeah. Which has been a lovely thing because now I feel like I have another tool in my toolbox that I can, you know, authentically recommend to other people who are having that sort of ongoing sort of heightened fight or flight response. Yeah, that might benefit as well. Yeah.
So it sounds like now, Genna, you're really in tune with those whispers and you recognise them pretty quickly. Do you feel like that's been the case for a long time, or have you always been fairly intuitive in terms of what your body's telling you? Or has it been a bit of a journey and you've kind of become more able to recognise those whispers as time's gone on?
I think always we get better as we go. You know, I'm an older woman now, and I think about myself as like that young 20-year-old, you know, I've always been like a bit of a firecracker kind of personality, really go, 10 projects and, you know, plans and, you know, moving overseas and doing all these things. And I think back to that person, what was driving all that and just going nonstop. And I think I have a constitution for it. And so good, but, probably didn't take care of myself the same way as I do now. And there were times when I came to roadblocks physically, because of, you know, maybe big events or just getting to the ends of things and realizing that it took more out of you than you realized in the moment, you know? So I definitely have been able to recognize it a lot more. I am blessed with good health and a good constitution, but like you and I would have learned in our training, sometimes that blessing in quotation marks is someone's undoing. So in our, you know, when we're looking at constitutional types of neurology, you know, you might look at a person with like this silk iris, which is considered to be, you know, this top constitution, and they're super powerful and strong and they can go, and they never get sick. And it's like, you know, they think they're just super person, and then they come down like a house of cards in one, you know, like within a month. You know, they get diagnosed with a serious disease because they have never learned to listen to their bodies. They've never learned how to nourish themselves. And it's not that all the things that they were doing weren't affecting them. They just didn't hear it because the symptomology didn't reflect what was genuinely happening.
Yes.
And I think that people that are given this sort of quote unquote like weaker constitutions have to have learned from an earlier age, I went out too many nights this week and now I have to stay home under the doona watching a movie and drinking tea because I really I'll get a cold if I don't. You know, like people who are a bit more, you know, susceptible or sensitive, I guess, learn, I think, because the symptomology is so
loud
in their faces. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And so I definitely, you know, I understand that I have this constitutional type, but I don't want to let that, you know, lull me into a false sense of security. And I guess as I'm getting older, I'm aware that false sense of security, you know, needs to be addressed. And I'm more conscious about balancing out the energy going out with the energy coming in. Because I don't want to be caught unawares. And I definitely don't want to be in a situation where, especially as natural practitioners, we think we might be immune to catching things that or having diseases that our patients have. And that's absolutely not true at all. We're all interconnected on this planet. I'm breathing the same air, drinking the same water, being affected by the same, forces. And no matter what diet I have or constitution I have or what herbs I have, I could still come down with serious pathology. And I need to be constantly aware of that and fortifying and protecting, and then also at peace with that, that we are interconnected and that that we can't control all the things that happen to us. We can just learn to navigate adapting to them.
Be aware and adapt.
Yeah.
You spoke a little bit about barriers and how having that gym membership is a really good way of removing a barrier, because you're making it easy for yourself to, when the moment strikes, you can go and do that exercise because you have that gym membership. What are some other barriers that you've found, either within yourself or within clients that you've worked with in the past, to regularly listening to those whispers and investing in self-care?
Well, I mean, the first and most obvious one, well, there's a few. The first one to me is time. Yes. So I think almost every single patient we ever have will be like, I don't have time to make a cooked breakfast. And you're like, what do you mean? Like, put an egg on the stove while you're getting dressed. Like, you just do it. I don't have time to blah, 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 whatever, ... And we all have this sense of scarcity of time. And I am absolutely one of those people too, who I feel like I don't have time to do tons of things that I want for self-care creatively, whether it be, pottering in my sewing room or playing music or all the other things I used to do in my life before I had a small business, to going to the gym, to, cooking from scratch as much as I can. Like, there's never been more packages in my pantry than there have been in the last 5 years of having a small business, like I used to make it was just all jars full of raw materials before. Like now, definitely don't come and take a photo of my pantry. It's not ready for the judgment, but we're still eating obviously incredibly well, but it's just, time is a big issue. Hustle culture is a big issue. It's really hard. And I'm not going to say that I can work out. I'm trying to work out how to squeeze it in. I think scheduling is good for people. Like, I try to schedule my exercise now. So I work 2 days a week in Lismore as a naturopath. And what I try to do is at the end of my shift, I don't go home first. I have my gym bag with me. And even though I go past my house to go to the gym, I just go straight there. Because if I go home, that's it. I'm not getting out again. So I go straight there and I smash out 45 minutes. And then it's like, okay, I don't finish work at 4. I finish work at 5. Like, psychologically, that's my brain. Or on the Saturday, I finish work at 1, not 12. So I just I schedule it in with myself so that I don't have a way to tweak out of it, if that makes sense. Because I'll always find things that need doing. Oh, I can't really do that today because I've got blah, blah, blah on, and then this extra thing needs doing and I won't have time. And so I'll always take the self-care thing and put it, that'll be the first thing to go, right? Yes. So scheduling is really important. The other thing I think that stops people is money. Obviously, financially, self-care can be a privilege. If I had more money, there's heaps of things I would do for self-care that I can't do. I recognize that even in my, 100% not cashed up state, I still can afford to have a gym membership. That some people can't afford that. I can still have regular acupuncture treatments. A lot of people can't afford that, or would prioritize that in their budget. So fair. But then as practitioners, if that's the block that a patient comes to you with, you think, well, how can let's workshop that. What could, those services or those experiences look like outside of, going to pay somebody. So we would, that money is definitely a block for people. And there was another one. I had 3 things that I was going to say on that. So time, money, barriers to self-care. I guess, change as well. Some people aren't really prepared for change. And that's actually something that you have to think about when you're a practitioner, and you have to accept that you can provide somebody with lots of roads and options. So I usually try to lay this out for folks that there's lots of roads to Rome here. You can go there in a Rolls Royce, and that can be every supplement and every treatment and you can get there and have the, VIP special, or you can get there the longer way and we just do a couple of things here. Or it can be the absolute slowest road, but you're still going to get there, but we're going to just be able to do one of the things on the list at a time. And what I always impart to patients, and this is my genuine philosophy with natural medicine, and I guess we can put this into the category of self-care, is that the two most important ingredients is rhythm and time. So it doesn't matter what it is that you're doing. If you're doing it rhythmically, over time you will have a change. Yes. So you can go for the Rolls Royce and only do it for 1 or 2 months because it costs you $1,000 a month and you literally just can't keep doing it. Or it's too laborious and boring and you're taking too many things and it's like a full-time job. Or you could take 1 cup of nettle tea a day, commit to that for a year, and see the impact on your total well-being. And absolutely, it'll be greater than the Rolls Royce for 2 months, right? So I always use the analogy too of like my favorite sort of image that I come to my mind when I think about this is the rock on the side of the ocean. And that, there can be a big storm and the waves can crush on that rock and it can absolutely give it a hammering and it looks exactly the same the next day. But the gentle lapping of a wave over years will make an absolutely enormous impression on that rock. Yes. And how it's shaped. So that is what we do in our world, and how plant medicine works and how natural medicine works is through the principles of rhythm and time. So always just picking something that's sustainable for yourself, and that is sustainable financially and practically. And also with joy, Yes. So you can't give somebody something that's horrible to do, that they hate doing, and expect them to continue doing it for the length of time. So this is why I don't really, if a really restrictive diet is just not going to work for that person, like just don't prescribe it. Yeah. Assess that with them, Yes. Or a really terrible tasting herbal formula. Some people are real big babies about that stuff, and they are just not going to take their medicine. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So you've just got to find ways to tap into that rhythm and time and that practical nature of what you're prescribing. Like I said, 1 cup of nettle tea can change your life if you do it every day.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that principle, Genna, because I think a lot of people who come to see us are in a state of overwhelm. So throwing 1,000 things at them and expecting them to stick with it long term is really not practical. So finding, as you said, that one thing and finding the space in the day for them where they're already doing something and it's just a matter of tapping that on. As you said, you're finishing work, you're going to the gym. You're taking this supplement, now you take your herbs, or you brush your teeth, then you do this. Not allowing yourself that gap of, I've got something else that's more important. So then it becomes that habit. And as you said, habits create change.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I feel that like when that overwhelmed person comes, depending on where they are in their natural health journey, in the sense whether they're a regular patient and consumer of natural medicine, or if there's somebody who's coming to you at the end of their tether, where they're expecting a miracle, like they're coming to you being like, I've tried everything and no one knows what's wrong with me, and now you're gonna fix me, and making a realistic goal out of each session that you're going to have with them, and what they can expect realistically from the medicines you're prescribing, as opposed to, because our medicines don't work like allopathic medicines, like drugs do, where you take a pill and then like, you're cured. I mean, you can have miraculous turnarounds very quickly in people, and you hear about it all the time, and that's wonderful, and we love when that happens, but you definitely do not go forward with prescription thinking that that's going to happen. You expect, and usually I need to sort of qualify that with people, how long can I expect before I see change? And how long will this initial investment take to show change? So if I'm investing, $45 in a bottle that's going to last me 2 months, will I know if this is working in 2 months? And I'll, definitely try to give people that sort of framework of realistic expectations. And then also, emphasize that there are many spokes on a wheel, and that our herbs and our medicines are one of the spokes, and that they are responsible for, there's tons of other spokes that need to be addressed. So exercise, or maybe talk therapy, they need counseling, or they, there's all kinds of other things. They all need to be there for the wheel to be moving, not just the one thing. So, managing those expectations and giving people a framework for their goals is something I think that we fall short of in our profession, definitely. And people do leave often with, the amount of people who come back. I saw this naturopath and I left with like $500 worth of supplements, and I really didn't understand even what I was meant to do. And I'm just like, that just puts it's really, I feel like that, to be honest, just whether this is fair or not fair, but potentially maybe part of the training of naturopaths.
Yeah, it does our profession a disservice, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, we are, when I came here and started studying naturopathy when I was, back in 2000, and I was coming out of that sort of folkloric herbal background, a medicine-making background and relationship to plants, I felt very smug in that I had that whole relationship to the work before entering this sort of white coat world, because my colleagues and the people I was with were they were seeing these plants for the very first time in a book, and I felt like, when we're working through case studies of diseases, it's very different in that sort of environment than it is when you've learned through, practice and working with the plants in their life form. Yeah.
Touching, smelling, feeling.
Yeah. And developing intuitive relationships with them, just knowing, like, sometimes you would have this when you're talking to somebody and you just feel a plant in your head. You're just like, oh, I'm definitely feeling this for you. This is what this is for you. And you don't get that without having had experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We've talked a little bit about some of the ways that plants make their way into your days in a way that supports your self-care. We've talked about your beautiful ritual of going out in the morning and connecting with the garden, and the way that you always have your herbs on hand and they change depending on what's going on for you. Are there any other rituals and routines that you weave into your days for self-care using plants?
I've thought about that as well. Definitely that. Definitely in my foods, like I have a smoothie every day that is always reflective of whatever is cyclically happening. And I think that my business is cyclical that way. So I guess I'm very unique in the sense that, like, I've got a business where I work with the seasons, making food-based medicines with what's around me. And so I am constantly every day connecting to the seasonal produce and herbs. And that is a huge joy for me, enormous amount of nourishment. I'm always just so grateful to be in this space, making these products and connecting with the plants that go into them. Other than, I guess, herbs and being in the garden, I guess for an everyday person, it would be to find ways to connect to that part of living in your environment. So whether it be connecting more to growers in your area, if you're not a grower yourself, but like getting out of Woolworths and Coles, and getting to your farmer's market and, appreciating what's in season in your local area. Just getting that feel for the rhythm of the seasons. In Australia, we're so lucky because there is almost a year-long growing season, which is amazing. So we have produce. In our area especially, you can eat only what grows in this local area all year round, there's something to eat, whereas where I'm from, parts of Canada, I grew up in a place called Winnipeg, total like 6 to 8 months of the year. I mean, the ground is frozen solid. There's nothing growing there. So, everything has been shipped in. Like that relationship to seasonal food is very different. I mean, you can still have it, but it's very different to here. So I guess we're in a privileged position to be looking at that, to find your way to connect to what's alive and fresh and growing in your local area.
And as you said, it's really easy to miss what's in season by shopping at the major supermarkets because everything's available all the time. Whereas if you go to the farmer's market or, a roadside stall, you're able to see, okay, these are the herbs, these are the plants, these are the flowers, these are the vegetables that are in season right now. And these are the ones that are best for my body right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they are surviving the same environment that I am. They are thriving in this place and this time, and I need to thrive in this place and this time. So I think I can get something out of that. That's, that was really a nice moment for me. I'm used to gardening in the Northern Hemisphere, and the summertime gardening there is full of like lettuce and, that's salad season, and we have heaps of like juicy greens, and even, so many of our winter vegetables here are summer vegetables there. But, growing in Sydney, I was able to grow, I think, a little bit more European Western veggies in the summertime. Whereas up here, the semi-tropical kind of climate, it's really like I've had to learn that the down part of the year is the peak of summer. And then I've looked to growing like Asian greens and, celoin spinach and kangkong and snake beans and okra and things that grow well here in the summer that weren't necessarily part of my diet before. But if I want green veggies and, leaves and things like that in the summertime, I mean, your silver beet is not going to grow in the middle of summer here. It is like, it literally crisps up and it's like laying flat, like it's been in a wok when you come out in the afternoon. Like you'd have to create like a whole shade cloth situation to keep it even remotely alive. So why bother? Just grow celoin spinach and learn about other, the foods that are going to thrive in this environment.
Yes, absolutely. Before we finish up, I've got a couple more questions. One is, do you have a special recipe or ritual using plant medicine for self-care that you'd like to share with us?
I really don't know what that would be. And I'm so sorry because I thought about that and I'm like, I have everything I do is like that. So a specific recipe, I guess the point of any sort of ritual for self-care is that it's gotta be something that speaks to that person and that they want to do all the time, and then it can evolve. So I'm not a huge tea drinker, for example. And some people, the ritual of tea is huge, and having different herbs and blending them themselves and putting the kettle on and having the beautiful pot and their favorite cup. And they do that, I've gone through phases in my life where I've been that person. So I do know that phase, but it's not my ritual these days, but that is a beautiful ritual for people to do. And growing a few of the herbs that they want to put in that tea. And like, even if it's just a little mint baby, or going to, your fundies or your place like that where you can buy them in bulk and then make your own blend, or going to a beautiful naturopath that blends their own tea, so you're getting amazing quality herbs that have been put together with intention and therapeutic benefits in mind. I also, like I've said, my smoothie is a really something I do every day. I get broccoli sprouts and sunflower sprouts and other sort of seasonal greens from 560 Farms from my friend who's an organic grower just up the road. And every Wednesday I get this huge big batch, and it kind of doesn't really last me a full week, but I make it last as long as I can. That goes in and on the different fruit or seeds and things that are feeling good to me at the time. And I make this drink that's like my beginning of the day kind of drink, and there'll be powders in it. Then there's also my herbal mix that's constantly evolving. I have my little
and I imagine
shot.
Too, you're sipping on your shrubs every day also.
Yeah. Yeah, I am. I'm sipping on my shrubs and I'm dreaming up the next sort of things as well. So
Yes.
I have so many dreams right now of the various formulas that I want to bring to life, not just in shrubs, but like I have our bitters, our aromatic bitters, which I'm really proud of. And I think they're an incredible, beautiful, tasty, digestive, detoxifying medicine that is made like the aromatic bitters were originally made in, the 1700s by pharmacists and herbalists. And I absolutely love them. And I want to continue that range with a bunch more plant medicines in drop form that are blended to be delicious as well as functional. So that you can have your little bottle in your purse or bag and just like squirt it in your sparkling water when you're at a restaurant even, or it's a delight to take in the afternoon with a squeeze of lemon, like those rituals. I really do advocate them, see them as being practical, and want to help with those as well. The fire cider tonic, forest cider tonic, flora tonic that we make, they're all based around daily rituals as well, whether you enjoy them in like a warm drink in the evening to kind of have a nightcap, whether you're doing it as a digestive aperitif around a meal, whether it's a morning shot to kind of get your circulation going and you're one of those sort of heroic people that wants to kind of get a bit of like a woo vibe. So
and that's all coming back to your rhythm and ritual and time, isn't it? Weaving those things into your day so that they become part of what you do rather than having to remember, that's right, got to do this today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a joy. It's a joy.
That's
you
right.
want things to be like, I didn't actually start this business thinking, I'm going to create wellness products. I was just like, I'm going to create delicious drinks and use the herbs and plants and fruit that I'm familiar with and I know. And that I was actually not really leaning into that message at the beginning of this business because I don't actually really relate to and love a lot of the wellness industry. I think there's a lot of health washing that goes on and it's really cringy. And I just was like, I want to be more like a fine food product. And that's the world I want to try to break into. But then all my customers are there because they are loving the benefits.
How they make them feel.
Exactly. So then I'm like, okay, I guess I'm a naturopath and I guess that's what I do. So, okay, let's do it. That's fine. Well, I'm going to embrace it now. Whereas before I was really like, I just don't want to be that person, like snake oil merchant vibes, like I just want to be there for the joy of it, not for the, take this, it's going to make you live forever. It's like, that's not what I'm about at all.
And in the end, you didn't need to. The products spoke for themselves.
Yeah. Amazing, right? That's so beautiful. I love that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, you have so many beautiful plant allies that you connect with every day, seasonally, in your garden, in your work. Can you choose one as your most connected plant?
You asked me that question. I was like, what the heck? It's like asking someone their favorite song. It's like, what do you mean? Like, I've had 20 million in my life and it changes all the time. But I was actually thinking about it and I really didn't know what to say. Like, I really started getting cranky about not knowing. But then I thought, you know what? I'm going to just pick one that I really love. And for some reason, lavender is actually what came forward for me. And I had a love affair with lavender from a very early age, and I actually specifically took myself to the south of France to go to the lavender fields in Sceaux, in the Provence, where you see those incredibly iconic lavender fields. And Sceaux, S-A-U-L-T, is considered to be the lavender capital. It's this little tiny town. I had to hitchhike to get there. And I'm sure there is a bus that gets there, but I got there hitchhiking. And it's like you're on top of this little mountain and there's these like old French men playing bocce, drinking wine out of like tumblers. And you're looking out over this checkerboard of purple. And the wind smells like lavender. Like you're just, everyone's stoned from the lavender beauty. The bees are just like, oh God, everything's amazing. Like you're just in heaven. You're like in a Van Gogh fantasy painting. It is so powerful magic. And what I love about lavender, and I was thinking about this, like what I really love about it, my herbal teacher, and I'm sure she got this from somewhere, so I'm not sure who the original person is, but they said, the way you think of lavender, it's for burns and the blues. And I remember thinking about that. It's like, we always think of lavender as, an antidepressant or something to help you feel relaxed or put it in your bath or blah, blah, blah. But its power as an antiseptic and as an anti-inflammatory and as a healing, topical healer hasn't, I don't feel, gotten enough, airplay. So, my experience using both the essential oil, the whole plant poultice, and teas in skin conditions, eruptions, infections, like serious infections. Like we're talking people who have infections where they've been on multiple courses of antibiotics with ulcerations and they can't heal them. Burns, bug bites, of all that, sunburn, anything where cooling, astringing, antimicrobial, there's the power of it is underestimated and not really spoken of. Beautiful tea for sore throats, the astringing nature of it, gorgeous for that. So it actually has a very practical, it's considered like an old lady's air freshener, but it's actually an incredibly powerful medicine when used in that way. And I think that it doesn't really get as much, people kind of look at you funny when you suggest, lavender as an option for their gaping ulcerative wound. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm like, no, really, trust me. It's amazing. It'll help. And it does. So I picked lavender and I do love it. And I'm very sad that it doesn't grow very well for me here. So in this area, we're too wet. I have tried and tried and tried, and sometimes I'll get a little plant that looks happy for a minute and some little flowers shoot out, but inevitably she rots. And I see sometimes people must have like some nice sandy soil or a nice dry outlook or something that they can grow the plants, but I've never had much luck in the Northern Rivers, sadly. And I wish I could. I would have hedges of it if I could. I love it.
Relive that experience in France.
Oh, I love it.
How
it's so
beautiful.
The honey is like mauve colored. Like you buy lavender honey there and you look in the light and it's mauve. It's not like golden.
How beautiful.
It's a very, I know, please let my days find me there one day again. Like I'm, who knows when or how I'll ever have the space in my life to bugger off to the south of France. But please let it happen. So
you're dreaming it in.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Thank you so much for sharing that beautiful picture and all of those really wide applications for lavender that most of us wouldn't really be aware of.
She's a really quiet powerhouse, which I love about that plant. The best plants kind of are like turmeric. It's kind of a quiet powerhouse, it kind of goes a bit, it's nothing major. It's just in curry. It's everywhere. It's blah, blah, blah. But then you're like, wow, this guy does everything. Yeah.
I love learning about those really broader applications of a herb. As you said, like lavender is really well known for its mood and anxiety properties. But knowing a herb well enough that it can cover so many different bases, I think, is magical.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Really
yeah.
Cool. Yay! Thanks so much, Genna. It's been a really lovely chat. I love how you've painted so many beautiful word pictures for our listeners. I think they're really going to enjoy this conversation.
Oh, good. Thank you so much. Thank you for asking me. I feel absolutely chuffed. So what a sweetheart. Yay.
It's been lovely. Okay. Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
I'm so glad you tuned into this episode of Self-Care with Herbs, a segment of the Elder Tree podcast. The Elder Tree is a non-profit dedicated to putting the medicine in the hands of the people through grassroots herbal education and earth skills, weaving a strong community of herbalists, healers, and plant folk in Australia. If you'd like to dive a little deeper, you can head over to our Patreon, the Elder Tree Trove, to access special content from our podcast guests. I hope you found something in this episode that has inspired you to begin to lean into those plant allies and to experience your practice of self-care blossoming and blooming. I look forward to sharing more ways you can weave plant medicine into your days next month.